Hello and welcome to Unwind Sessions, where right after my shift I give the highlights of my workday and answer any questions that might have been asked at a previous session. My name is Juan. I am an English, Spanish, medical, video, remote, consecutive interpreter with over 4 years of experience. Today is Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021, and I took a total of 30 sessions today. Always a mix of video remote sessions, or video sessions, I should say, and phone sessions. So I took way more video sessions today than audio sessions. I had probably like 3 or 4 audio sessions, and then I had an audio session. I was ready for a break. I just was almost laying down on this seat right here that I'm sitting on, and I was ready to take that call. I was relaxing, and then all of a sudden the lady says, "Can you just stay on the line while I put the client on three-way?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, of course." And as soon as she said that, the call dropped. So I was like, "No, please come back. Why'd you have to hang up on me?" But I mean, it happens, right? It happens with the job. Just when you're ready for a break and you think you're gonna get it, and you get it, and it turns out that life has something else planned for you, right? So, I mean, there's no use crying over spilled milk, right? It happens, it happens. And as soon as that call was over, I went right into a video session. So I just had to sit up straight again and just get back to work. So I really didn't know what I was gonna talk about today. I have a couple of highlights that I want to talk about today, but other than that, I didn't know what I was going to say. So I did manage to come up with something, but as I'm doing more and more of these videos and nobody's asking anything sometimes, it's very hard for me to think of topics. So I hope that in the future, I'm gonna be thinking of more topics. I think that's what I'm gonna be doing now, so that in case nobody ever asks a question or something, I have something interesting to talk about besides the highlights, of course. So let's get right to it. For my first highlight, it was an audio session, so I was not able to see anything that was going on. It was a planned parenthood session, and the lady, she was very soft spoken. As soon as I introduced myself to her, and when she gave me her first utterance, of course I couldn't hear her. Then I asked the provider if they could move the phone closer to her. They moved her closer to the phone. I was able to hear her. Then on the second utterance, I couldn't hear her, and I asked the provider if I could ask the lady to speak up, and I did, and I was able to hear her. Then on the third time, I was not able to hear the lady again, so I asked the provider if I could remind the lady that she needed to speak up, and I was able to hear her. Then every try after that, I could no longer hear the lady, and I had to keep on asking her to speak up. But instead of asking her to speak up and asking the provider to, if I had permission to speak up, what I actually did was, as soon as the lady said something, I just said, "Perdón," or "excuse me" in English, because I honestly I couldn't hear her, and I don't know what was going on with her. I couldn't see her, so I couldn't really tell you what was going on with her or why she was doing this. Maybe she was just shy, very soft spoken. But every time she said something, I just couldn't hear her, and I just waited until she stopped talking, and then I would just say "perdón," and then she realized that she needed to speak louder, and she would probably speak louder or get closer to the phone. Like I said, I was not able to see the problem, but yeah, I mean, this is a thing that had never happened before. Usually, after just letting the LEP know or the provider know that they have to speak up, I usually have to remind them a couple of times during the session, of course. Like sometimes I need to be reminded that I need to speak up when I am working with a person that is hard of hearing, because we're not used to doing that, right? We're used to people um, actually we're used to people being able to hear us at the normal level that we speak. If we speak at a normal level, right? Of course, if we are very soft spoken, then people are not going to be able to hear us. But we're not really used to like shouting at people, you know. So yeah, I understand the lady, and that has happened to me as well. Like I mentioned before, sometimes if the person is hard of hearing, sometimes instead of yelling at the person that's hard of hearing, I yell at the other person, and then I realize that it's the other way. And then when I'm supposed to yell at the person that is hard of hearing, I don't do it, and then of course the person doesn't hear me, and then I have to yell again. So it's understandable, but it is kind of annoying. So yeah, that was one of the highlights. And another highlight, I know that yesterday I talked about the really smart girl that really impressed me, and she was awesome. Well, today I had a very annoying girl, and she was like around 9 or 10, maybe less. Uh, and she really annoyed me. It is very rare that I get annoyed in a session, but this girl, she was annoying from the start. As soon as I came in, it was a OBG, it was a um, OBGYN appointment, and they were doing an ultrasound and a pelvic exam for a lady that was pregnant, and she happened to bring her daughter. Like I said, 8, 7, 8, 9. I don't know. I don't even know how old she was, but she was annoying, and let me tell you why. As soon as I came in, as soon as I went in, well, as soon as they reeled me in, the doctor went in with a medical student, and the patient right away, she told the doctor, "You know what, doctor? I am not comfortable with the medical student here in the room. I don't want him here, and I only want you here, doctor." And the doctor said, "Yeah, that's fine. That will not be a problem. Of course, whatever you say is whatever makes you feel comfortable, right?" And as soon as she said that, the little girl told the doctor, "Oh, doctor, I'm not comfortable with the interpreter. Could you get him out of here?" And then the doctor just turned to the little girl, and then she just saw her like this, and then she didn't answer her. So I was like, "Yeah, went for the interpreter, right?" And then of course, she didn't listen to the little girl because it was the mother who should have said that, right? She was the patient, so the doctor didn't really care about the little girl. And that was the first thing that this annoying little girl did. She was trying to get rid of me. And then the next thing was that she was speaking to the doctor, like, for example, like, and that I didn't find it that annoying. That honestly, I respect the little girl's curio- curiosity, but like the provider was letting the patient know something about the lady and the ultrasound and everything, and then the little girl would just cut in, and she'll be like, why, what is that, and why does that happen, and that, and this, and that, and I found that very annoying because she would interrupt the doctor and she would interrupt her mother, and man, it just made it horrible because of course I couldn't see the patient and I couldn't see anything that was going on for her privacy, of course, because this was an ultrasound and a pelvic screening. So I couldn't really see anything that was going on. So then, when the doctor would speak and then would say something to the mother, then the little girl would cut me off, and then the mother would explain, the doctor, I'm sorry, the doctor would explain, and then some of the time I thought she was explaining things to the mother, but then the doctor would be like, "Oh, you don't have to interpret this. This is just for the daughter." And then almost at the end of the session, they wanted to do a pap smear, and then the doctor was struggling trying to get the pap smear, And the lady just got annoyed. She said, "You know what? I don't want Pap smear anymore." And then the little girl, she told the doctor, "I think you should just do the Pap smear now, because if you do it later, I'm gonna feel pain, and I'm gonna feel pain now, so might as well get over the pain now." And the doctor thought that the mother had said that, and she was confused, and then she didn't know what to do, and then she asked the mother, "So do you want it or not?" And the mother was annoyed. She was like, "No, I told you that I didn't want it." And then the doctor's like, "Well, your daughter's telling me." And then the ladies are like, "No, of course not. I told you that I didn't want it. I wanted to do it next time." So I mean, the little girl, she was just creating trouble in that session. But everything got cleared out, and everything went well. And I just got very annoyed with the little girl. She just didn't let me do a good job. But anyways, that was the only two things that I wanted to talk about today. And since I didn't know what to talk about today, I remember that a while ago I read an article. I wouldn't remember where this article was from, to be honest. But what the article said is it was a list, like 5 or 10 things that I wish every client knew when working with an interpreter. So I am going to go ahead and I am going to give you my list of 5 things that I wish that every client that worked with me actually knew beforehand before actually working with me. Of course, it's impossible to actually do that, but it would be nice if we could actually do that. We could actually let them know like what we're comfortable with and all of that, and that would be great. But of course, it would take a long time, and we can do a good job just without it, right? And there's general guidelines that they have to follow, and they pretty much do a good job, except in certain situations. And of course, there's clients that just don't care about it, and they just do their thing, right? So let's start with my 5 things that I wish every client or every person that works with me as an interpreter would actually know. And this is BRI. So, number one, there is absolutely nothing else that I can do to improve the connection except refreshing the browser. And you have no idea how many times that there's a bad connection. There's noise on the line. I cannot hear the patient, the provider or the patient, the other party at all, or they can't hear me, or we can't hear each other, and just all kinds of technical difficulties that are just above and beyond what I can do, right? Like I have no control over that. And the providers are always thinking that we have some magic button that will actually fix something or anything. And honestly, all I do is if it's not working, I just refresh. And if it doesn't work again, I just refresh. And if it doesn't work again, I just refresh. And sometimes I don't even do anything, and then the provider's like, "Oh yeah, whatever you did worked." It's like, "Oh yeah, I knew that. I'm such a genius with technology and things, right?" But yeah, I mean, what else am I gonna do, right? I cannot control the connection or anything, so I wish they actually knew that, but of course, many of them don't, and it's okay. I mean, it's okay, but definitely, there's nothing else that I can do except press the refresh button on the browser until the provider gives up and actually hangs up on me. Sometimes I go ahead and just, sometimes the provider tells you to go ahead and work like that. And yeah, you just have to do your best. But if there's no audio coming in and out, just refreshing the browser until they hang up usually does the trick. There's nothing much that actually can be done. Number two, I know that my introduction and my outro are very long and are very boring. And as a provider that has worked with interpreters, you've probably heard it a million times. And I know how boring it is, and I try to get through it as fast as I can. But I am not able to omit it except in special situations because it is company policy. And sometimes I get providers that are rolling their eyes at me, and LEPs that are just looking at me and at the provider like, why is this guy saying all of that? But I am sorry, and I wish I didn't have to say all of that, and I wish we could just get on to interpreting, and that would just make life easier for everyone. But unfortunately, um, I have to give all that information, and it's to protect me, it's to protect the company, and also to protect yourself. So there's just no way around that. Number three. I am not going to know every word, but if you spell it for me when I cannot find it, you will help me become a better interpreter, and I will love you indefinitely for that. Honestly, I really love those doctors that whenever they give me a word and then I try to look it up real quick, but it has a funny spelling to it, or I heard it wrong and then I cannot find it, and because I don't like to tell the providers unless I cannot find it. Like if I cannot find it on the first try, then I'm like, all right, you know what, doctor, I am not familiar with this term. Would you be so kind as to spell it for me? And sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't bat an eye. They just say, um, yeah, it's spelled like this or like this. And sometimes they just get annoyed, or sometimes they don't care. They don't want to help this poor interpreter to improve his vocabulary. And they just go ahead and, oh, just forget about it. Don't tell her that. Just tell her this instead. Or just say this. And of course, they make that vocabulary, they drop register on the vocabulary, and they actually give me something that I can use and I can interpret, and that the patient will actually understand. But of course, that just leaves me as the same place, right? I mean, if I don't understand the word and I can't find it, and the provider doesn't is not kind enough to spell it, and he actually goes ahead and tells me something else, then he's just not helping me out, right? And most of the time, I am able to find the terms in the vocabulary that actually comes out in sessions. There are some times when I cannot, but I'm actually like whenever that happens, I actually have to go Sherlock Holmes, and I have to like just piece clues together, right? For example, okay, this was an OBGYN session, and they said this word, and they were talking about this, and the provider said to actually say this instead. So I will actually do a Google search, and I will not stop until I am convinced that I cannot find that word, or never, and I will never find that word. And I'm just like that. I'm just very curious, and I want to have knowledge over that. I wish I had control, and I wish I knew every vocabulary word. But of course, it's impossible because of the vast language, and you're working with two languages, so that just makes it even harder. So yeah, I mean, if I ask you to spell it, it's because I want to become better. And if you actually give me the spelling, you're helping me become better, and I really love you for that, like I said. And if you don't, whatever. uh, Another thing is that I can interpret long utterances with higher precisions, but if you want me to interpret the whole conversation you just had with someone, I will drop the ball. And this has happened many, many times, more than I would like. Uh, I can interpret long utterances, and if someone just doesn't stop talking, for example, it happens more with LPs than doctors. or providers. Like they really have a really long story to tell you, of course, and sometimes with a lot of irrelevant information. But I do believe I do a very, very good job. If I make any omissions, they will be minor and probably not important to the point of the conversation. And but I do trust myself, and I have confidence in myself that I can um, interpret long utterances without a problem. The thing is that if there is a conversation going back and forth, uh, depending on the length of it, I could probably do it, but I don't want to risk it because that is just too much information most of the time. And if it was only like one thing that like one utterance from the provider and one utterance from the patient, then I could probably do it. But most of the time, it's like a really, really long conversation, and then they expect me to actually go ahead and first of all, remember everything they said, right? And then be able to interpret it correctly. Well, yeah, no, I'm not even gonna try that because I don't want to do a good job. I don't want to do a good job. I don't want to do a bad job, of course, and I wouldn't want to be held responsible for a bad job, and I wouldn't want to be monitored on that session, right? And all of a sudden, I just give um, an interpretation that was not complete. And I would really feel bad about that, not just because of getting monitored, but because of who I am. I just cannot deliver a bad interpretation because that's not who I am. If I signed up for this work and I said that I'm gonna do a good job, you best believe that I'm gonna do the best job that I'm actually capable of, and I will work hard to actually do it. So yeah, I mean, I think we all have a limit. Some of us higher, some of us lower, depending on our experiences and our experience as an interpreter. But yeah, when it comes down to actually interpreting conversations, I'm out. I just say nope, forget it, not doing it. All right, and my last point, point number 5, is that my notes are worthless after I hear the next utterance from a different speaker. So as soon as, let's say, the provider tells me something, and then I have to interpret it, and then I have to listen to what the other person says, the LEP or the patient. As soon as I am listening to that patient, all of the notes that I just wrote down for the previous utterance, I'm not even gonna remember what they said, and I am probably not going to understand most of them. Um, like, and I don't know why this happens. Like, they're just instant and they work at that moment, but at the like, if I look at them after, like after I'm done with the session, of course I can make up. I can make out a couple of things or maybe a lot of things, but there are going to be some things that I'm just like, what does that even mean? Like I can't even remember. Like, and I noticed that from the other day. I think it was on Monday when I showed you the how I'm taking notes now on the new LCD board, and honestly, I couldn't even like I was trying to search that thing for HIPAA, so it wouldn't break any HIPAA, and I was able to erase the numbers and the name of a patient. But other than that, honestly, I couldn't even tell what the rest of the information was on there. Um, but I know it was not like PHI or personal health information because that information I usually write it out very neatly, right? Because it's names, and of course, if I just scribble out a name, I'm not even going to be able to know what the name says, right? Or if I scribble out a number, I'm not going to be able to read it back. So, I do take my time on it. I make sure that it's neat. I make sure that I can actually read it back. And that was the only piece of information that I could read. Everything else, I honestly couldn't even tell what it was. And of course, I take a lot of sessions a day, so don't expect me to remember uh, what it says on the notes that I actually took. And why do I mention this? Is because today I've had this many other days, but today there was a person, provider, that actually told me to summarize everything that I said. And of course, I told her no. This happened yesterday as well. And of course, I told her no because there was no way that I could actually do that. I couldn't remember accurately what was said, so I wasn't even gonna try. So that is pretty much it for me today. Those are the 5 things that I wish every person that actually works with me as an interpreter knew. And I would think that would actually make my job much, much easier. But of course, that is not possible. So I'm just going to settle with continuing giving you the highlights of all of these things that um, happen, right? So that is going to be pretty much it for me today. Please leave your questions on the comments and I will answer some of them on the next session. I will be here every Monday through Friday after work. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you liked the video and have not done so for more content. And don't forget to share. Happy interpreting. Goodbye.